Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson. This is an interesting article I just read about cannabis, and I'm thinking, cannabis and heart disease? Are you kidding? And stroke? Wow, what does it say? And the first thing that pops up is within the first four words, here they are, of the article. People who abuse marijuana. And now I'm going to read this whole sentence because I'm going to unpack this a little bit so that we can see these words that are very telling in what they're trying to deal with here. But anyways, let's do it. People who abuse marijuana may be setting themselves up for heart problems down the road, Canadian researchers report. So what's the first thing that we have to look at here is this word abuse or abuse. So people who abuse marijuana are setting themselves up for heart problems. Now, okay, let's look at that. Anybody who abuses anything is probably going to find themselves with some significant issue. Let's take something seemingly innocuous that our society loves to promote, which is water. Oh, you got to drink lots of water. You got to do that. And so there have been reports that people that drink up to 2 and 3 gallons of water a day, that their kidneys now are damaged within 2 or 3, 4 years. You're thinking, well, how many years do I have to smoke or abuse marijuana in order to have a heart attack? Now, I don't know about that, but I'll bet it's a little while. So, anything that you abuse is probably not wise. And if you're abusing something, we would actually rather you figure out why rather than continue to abuse it. So let's move on and kind of unpack this article a little bit more. So it says that those with so-called cannabis-use disorders, and I'm like, there's a name? Cannabis-use disorder. How fascinating. And so they've actually now got this diagnosis of cannabis-use disorder, are 60% higher risk of heart attack and stroke. So if I am smoking anything, I don't care if it's cloves, I don't care if it's tobacco, I don't care if I've dried grass out back in my house and smoked it. Anything that you are going to light on fire and inhale into your lungs, you're going to have a problem eventually. It's just the nature of what's happening. So let's say that I am an individual that is well put together mentally and I'm okay with myself and I care about myself and I don't mind smoking a rolled up cigarette of tobacco that I grow, let's say, because it's 400 years ago and I know how to grow tobacco and I rather enjoy it. And every night, let's say I have a small, at that point, we could probably still call it a joint. Let's say I smoke 1 cigarette a day. Is that going to be a problem? Probably not. I'm probably not going to get myself into trouble doing such. But if I'm now a 2-pack smoker a day, am I going to have some problems eventually? Yes, I am. So if you're smoking marijuana every 4 hours because you don't want to deal with reality, or you've got a lot of pain, or you've got some mental stuff that's going on that you feel like you need to do that, then I'm going to point you in the same direction that I point all people. Let's find the cause of your issues. Let's not blame. Let's not blame our genetics. Let's not blame society. Let's not blame your parents. Let's not blame your boss or your past boss. Let's begin to put everything right back on our own shoulders. And this goes for the people that are sugar addicts, that are abusing candy, that are abusing bread, that are abusing whatever. Internet, movies, TV, escapism is in all forms, my friend. We're not just picking on the pot smokers if that's you. So we want to look at core issues. And there is where we're going to find your real release. Now, if you want to smoke a joint each day and have a couple puffs and it's totally awesome and you love it and it's just what you like to do, and you still can go to work and function and you get up in the morning and you're still a loving, caring individual of yourself and others, my gosh, fabulous, knock yourself out. But if we have a cannabis use disorder situation going on, and this was interesting, this particular article talked about 60,000 cannabis users that were in 5 databases that they kind of culminated and looked at. They said half of them had cannabis use disorder. So I'm just going to tell you that if you are a daily user or smoker of marijuana, you probably have a problem, my friend. Just as if I drank, let's say, 2 or 3 beers a day, am I looked on disfavorably? Well, no, but do I have a problem? Yes, I do. So let's not be, oh, well, mine's not as bad as theirs. I'm sorry. It's all the same ilk in my opinion. You're just choosing a different form. And to speak from one who's gone through the process of getting rid of addictive tendencies, I know. And as a certified addictionologist that I am, having gone through 150 hours of training, I don't keep up my certification because I'm not really wanting to deal with addicts. But I went through it because I found it fascinating because of all the people that I deal with. Everybody comes to me with addictions. Everybody has them. You are not alone. I'm not pointing fingers at you. I'm pointing fingers at all of us. And so, it just doesn't matter. But if cannabis is your drug of choice, if pornography is your drug of choice, if sugar is your drug of choice, if salt is your drug of choice, if overeating is your drug of choice, if gambling is your drug of choice, if TV and escapism is your drug of choice, then let's just acknowledge it for what it is. Because I think the moment we do that, we say, hey, I think I might have a problem. At that point, we actually have begun to turn a corner that is beginning the process of fixing our own head that got us to deciding for these things in our life that we know inevitably are probably not great. So let's go there first. But we can talk about the mechanisms of smoke entering somebody's lungs every 4 hours from cannabis use or smoking. Your body is going to clear vitamin C and vitamin E out of the blood quite quickly, trying to process that carcinogen. Because I don't care what you smoke, anything that you roast, coffee, anything that you roast, sesame seeds, anything that you roast, almonds, or whatever it is, or smoking, technically roasting tobacco or marijuana and putting it into a smoke and then breathing it in, or eating smoked almonds, you are now putting carcinogens in your body, cancer-causing substances. So let's just be very open about all of it. We're not just picking on one thing, we're picking on all things. And so if I'm going to do those things, I'm going to have an issue with vitamin C and vitamin E in the blood. And if I'm going to rid myself of most of the vitamin C and vitamin E in my blood, I am now going to open myself up for way more heart vascular problems and stroke. That's just the nature of what's happening. So do we need this article to tell us that if I abuse smoking something and putting it in my lungs, that I'm going to have a high risk of heart attack and stroke? No, because all smokers do. And that's why. So with that information, now that we have this kind of understanding, okay, great. So what do we do? What now? I don't just want to leave you hanging, but I do want to at least give you the idea that, hey, you could go through the aspect of saying, hey, I'm going to do really natural vitamin C and vitamin E to try to up my body's ability to clear these substances. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to dig into my own thinking processes and maybe start looking at how my thinking is and the things that have happened in my life that have put me on this path of, let's just be real general and say, not loving myself. That I have an anti-me thought running in my head, and therefore I'm craving these particular things. So as we do that, we can then begin to understand each other on a more holistic level. And now when I see somebody who's in an abusive situation of some substance, I don't throw them out. I don't berate them. I simply understand and say, how can I love on you more? How can I help you? Maybe I don't want help. Okay, maybe you don't want help. Maybe you want to sit at home and smoke yourself into oblivion. And ultimately that is your choice. But for what purpose is that going to solve? Don't you want to overcome the things that you've done to yourself, but the stuff that you've put in your own mind and your own head that you've blamed other people for doing to you, but yet really it was you the whole time that took everything they did and decided whether or not it was good or bad and what kind of meaning it had. And now you've decided to be sad, mad, fearful, shamed, apathetic, whatever it is, prideful, and you're still the one doing it to yourself. The situation is way in the past and you're still doing it to you. When will you want to stop doing that becomes the question. And maybe nobody's asking you because nobody knows. Well, I'm asking because I care. I care if you really don't want to continue doing this and you really would like to see a way out, or maybe do it in a way that is not damaging, but that is glorifying. I do think it's possible. You've got people in churches out there that are very condemning of people walking around because they don't have their habits, but let's look into their life and see what's going on with them. Might we find some issues and some addictions? Probably. And should we now look on them without love because they looked on us without love? No, we always want to take a higher road with everyone, even those that should, quote unquote, know better. It's the same with all of us. Yes, we know better, but we feel like we don't have the ability to control the situation anymore. And that's in essence the definition of an addiction. I no longer feel like I have a choice. Well, let's begin to strengthen your mind by getting rid of the debris in it and getting rid of the belief systems that you stuck in your own head that are now producing the things that you now have in your life. Let's start adding some nutrition to maybe support your adrenals that maybe you've abused with the amount of stress and the worry and the anxiety and the condemnation that you've let run in your head long enough. And all of a sudden now we have a system that feels stronger. We have a brain that has better nutrition and feels like it maybe can put a finger on that stop button. And all of a sudden now I can maybe do something without feeling so attached to it and that I don't have a choice. That all of a sudden now I feel like I have a choice. And then we begin to turn around and now we can make better choices. You can either choose to have a joint or not have a joint. You can either choose to have sugar or not have sugar. You can either choose to watch a movie or not watch a movie, or go exercise and go play and go spend time with people and just enjoy life in general. That would be a wonderful thing for all of us to experience in our own way, shape, and form. So I hope that kind of takes a little different spin on what this article is about and maybe gives some cannabis users out there that maybe feel like they don't have a choice, a possibility of beginning that journey down that road that leads to having a choice and making a good decision and realizing that I can instead of I can't. Until next time, I'm Dr. Troy Munson.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach Dr. Munson at 360-893-8586 or email him at chiroman@dr.com. That's chiroman@dr.com. Check out our current workshop schedule on Facebook at Infinity Whole Health.
The information on Dr. Troy Munson's podcast is meant to educate the listener and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease.